There's a rumor going around. If you like this video and subscribe, you will become a student of the Shadow Dragon Slayer Gajeel. Hi guys, this is the next part of What If Broly Was Reincarnated in the World of Naruto. I hope you enjoy. Esumi was riding with Anko on her clone that transformed into a snake that was slithering across the water. They reached some rocks that Anko said they had to go up. But while she said this, she held her neck again. Esumi glanced at Anko with concern. She was starting to think this was where she got marked by Orochimaru and it was bringing up traumatic memories for her. She didn't ask her about it now, but after this mission she will talk with her about it. Following Anko's instructions led them up some rocks and outside a cave entrance. Esumi glanced at Anko, who gave a strained nod in return. Esumi had her clone sneak in first to gather information. The clone used the transformation jutsu once more before transforming into a small ordinary fly and flew inside the cave. The clone flew down a path of stairs inside the strangely lit cave. After reaching the final step, the cave started to form more into an actual cave. There were torches lit up every few feet and stalactites on the ceiling and some on the side of the pathway of the cave. As the clone silently flew through the cave, it noticed a slightly ajar door at the end of the hallway of the cave. The door had a strange green light that was coming from inside the room. Esumi's clone flew inside the room and found many glowing test tubes with strange creatures inside. The creatures resembled fish-like people. Some had webbed hands, others had webbed feet. Most of them had a different color of skin, such as blue, green, or gray. The clone was pissed off at witnessing this disgusting sight. Innocent people being treated as cattle and products of experimentation. The clone quickly controlled its emotions before its transformation became messed up and looked up and noticed a strange woman above. She was partly wrapped in bandages and looked pretty young. The clone flew behind this young girl as a fly and landed on top of her purple hair. The young girl didn't even notice as she continued to hold the rope as if waiting for someone to come inside the room. The clone zapped the girl and she soon fell unconscious. As if noticing the girl going unconscious, the room started to shake and quake and open a large door. Esumi's clone heard roaring before three monstrous tiger creatures came from the door. They looked around for any signs of prey. They stared towards the young girl's body before looking elsewhere in search of a target. The clone thought that this girl must be someone who works for the associate of Orochimaru, since the creatures didn't try to eat her. The clone put together its two fly hands before creating another fly clone and dispelling, sending back its memories to Esumi and the other fly clone. Outside, after receiving the memories from the clone, Esumi told Anko what happened and how it was set up. This is so cool. I feel like an actual ninja doing this sneaky stuff. Gathering information, being sneaky, destroying hideouts, learning things about the enemy without fighting, it's awesome. Esumi said in an excited, hushed manner. Okay Gaki, brat, follow behind me. Let's finally finish this mission. Anko replied in a slightly tired voice. Anko walked inside the cave with Esumi behind her. It seemed as if Anko knew her way around, because once we got into the cave and down the stairs, she seemed like she had a certain destination she was headed. Esumi kept silent about it because she already decided to talk with her later, and they're being sneaky hot and sexy kunoichi right now. They arrived in front of a wooden door with strange markings on it. Anko signaled to Esumi that this was it and to prepare herself. Esumi unsheathed her flowery hilt rapier. Esumi colored her rapier's blade pink with tiny flowers etched around the entire sword body. Anko slightly wedged the door open and took a peek inside. Esumi simply prepared herself to either charge in and stab whatever is inside or walk into an empty room. But luckily for her, there was someone inside. Anko walked inside the room with a kunai in her hand. Esumi followed right behind her until she noticed a black figure sitting on a throne-like chair. She was silently cursing at Anko for not taking the figure out immediately. She then heard Anko ask the figure, "Who are they?" Esumi groaned deeply on the inside. This is base destruction mission, not an interrogation one. What are you doing, big sis? The dark figure revealed themselves and it turned out to be a green-haired man in a white lab coat. Welcome, or should I say haven't seen you in a while, he says with a sharp tone. It's you, Amachi, Anko shouted in realization. I'm surprised, little Anko-chan. I can't believe you came back here after something like that has happened to you. What do you mean? Anko said while clutching her neck slightly. So you don't remember? I see. Well, it doesn't matter. My business here isn't with you. Where is Orochimaru? Orochimaru? Don't act stupid. He has to be here. Anko yells while her curse mark started to act up once again, causing her to grab her neck even more tightly and look strained. Oh ho. So the curse mark responds even when the creator isn't even around. Truly interesting. But yeah, Orochimaru was here. Half a month ago. Impossible. So the reason why the curse mark was responding was due to his presence here for half a month. But wait. Quit talking. Just kill him already. It doesn't matter if Orochimaru is here or was here, this base is going to be destroyed. Esumi yelled, alerting Amachi of her presence, which seemed to go unnoticed by the man previously. So you brought a little genin along with you. I'm curious where you were hiding earlier, but I guess you were the one to set off my little pretties. No, that was a fly, not me. Now get ready to be beat down. Hold on, Esumi. Amachi is a medical ninja that was under Orochimaru and was running various experiments here along with him. But since Orochimaru isn't here, that must mean he was doing all this on his own. Anko said. So he's responsible for the fish people in that other room. Well, nerdy guy, it seems you just earned yourself a couple of kisses from Stabby-chan. Esumi says while holding out her rapier towards the scientist. While I would love to stay and socialize, my little friend here has something to address with you. Amachi says before turning around and walking away. Esumi was about to rush towards him before the room started to rattle and vibrate. Rocks began to fall from the ceiling. Esumi coated her blade in lightning chakra before stabbing each rock that fell near her and breaking them apart into smaller harmless pieces. She lost sight of Anko, but considering she's a special jonin, she has nothing to worry about, hopefully. A figure appeared behind a destroyed wall along with 3 other beast-like figures. Esumi saw the coward from earlier, then managed to escape from her with a new look and 3 tigers nearly the size of an elephant next to him. Dosu appeared with a second device on his other arm that was identical to his other one and a strange monocle on. The monocle had a spiral design on it, making it look as if he was trying to hypnotize someone. The 3 tigers next to him each stared at Esumi with hunger in their eyes. Seeing the coward made Esumi glare at him with unrestrained killing intent. She noticed him flinch, but not give up on his plan to attack. The 3 tigers dashed towards Esumi as if they couldn't wait any longer to rip into her flesh. Esumi kept her eye on the changed Dosu with a look of anger in his eyes, as if trying to match hers. As the tigers neared closer and closer to Esumi, it was as if her entire character changed. The atmosphere also seemed to follow along with this change. The first tiger creature slashed downward at Esumi with its huge claws. Esumi stood in a graceful-looking stance and deflected the creature's massive paw with her tiny twig-sized rapier. The creature's attack landed on the ground and created a small crater in the shape of its paw. The creature pulled back its paw and attempted to attack again until it felt a strange feeling in its throat. An electrical ball flew out from Esumi's rapier before shaping into a flower that floated behind her. The big tiger soon fell down, without knowing why it couldn't control its body and tear this tiny human apart. Within 2 seconds, the first creature fell and the second creature was immediately upon Esumi with a leaping pounce with its terrifying claws forward. A second electrical flower formed from Esumi's sword and floated behind her as she daintily hopped above the towering tiger and pierced right through its skull. The third creature halted in its dash and stared at the small human warily before taking a look back at Dosu. This proved to be a life-costing mistake though, as Esumi had a third flower floating behind her as she appeared under the distracted beast with a dazzling entrance of lightning flowers at her feet. The beast instinctively hopped away. Unfortunately for the beast, it turns out that Esumi's rapier had increased in length due to her adding lightning chakra in the form of her sword at the end of her blade tip, effectively creating some sort of lightning rapier. The lightning rapier pierced through the heart of the oversized tiger and ended its life. It was at this moment that Dosu decided to move. He appeared in front of Esumi, who was still in the midst of killing the last beast, and punched with both of his fists towards her midsection. Esumi couldn't react in time due to not coating her body in lightning. She only coated her sword to get through the hard-ass bones of the tiger creatures. She stretched her midsection back, using the soft physique modification jutsu that allowed her to elongate her body. I will avenge my teammates. I won't let them die a pointless death. Dosu yelled as the monocle on his eye started to spin. But it wasn't enough to simply stretch her body away as she was suddenly blasted away by the sound devices on Dosu's arm. She was blasted away to the other side of the room. Esumi quickly tried to align herself as she was flying through the air. She rolled through the air before landing on the opposite wall with her feet. She immediately launched herself back towards Dosu while spinning in a drill-like fashion with her rapier leading. The drill had electrical flowers spinning alongside Esumi and a trail of yellow lightning behind her. Dosu surprisingly smiled at this turn of events, which Esumi couldn't see due to spinning rapidly. Dosu allowed himself to get pierced through the chest before grabbing Esumi's shoulders and activating both of his sound devices. As he coughed and spewed blood, he surged all of his chakra into his resonating echo speakers. Esumi's ears started to leak blood as she screamed in pain. The sound devices were currently wreaking havoc inside her head, destroying and damaging her internally, before eventually she smiled at Dosu, who had a victorious smile on his face. Dosu was confused until he noticed those electric flowers were still floating behind his opponent. He didn't know what they did until they suddenly started to glow brighter and boom, crackle, explode. After the rumbling, electricity, and screaming stopped, a certain person appeared from the hole where Dosu came from. I hope those sound things on his arm are more durable than he was, Esumi said as she walked through all the rubble and rocks littered everywhere. She searched for the sound devices before eventually finding some parts of Dosu and the items. Clones are so awesome, Esumi said before laughing. Jabi is definitely gonna have to owe me for finding him this. Esumi thinks before stashing away the items and the strange monocle Dosu was wearing. Shame he couldn't even use this little item. But it'll be used just nicely once I find out what it does, Esumi says before eventually searching for Anko. She looked all over the cave before leaving and noticing that it was morning time already. A second look prompted the appearance of a single small boat leaving the island. Esumi saw a single figure on the boat before a bunch of other bigger ships came by. It seems the small boat was heading towards the group of ships for some reason. Esumi was about to head out to sea until she noticed a large snake slithering across the water towards the small boat. The fly clone from earlier transformed back into Esumi and arrived outside the cave with the unconscious purple-haired girl and a bunch of also sleeping fish people. Take her back to the village. Once she's safely secured, this mission is basically finished. For these fish guys, just throw them in the ocean or leave them on one of these islands. I gotta go chase a boat and crush a base. After telling her clone what to do, she summoned two large snake creatures to help her accomplish her current goals. The yellow one-eyed snake appeared again with a blue snake with a bandana on his head. Take us out to sea and follow that small boat Ramen. Blueby, I want you to rampage across this island until you have to poof back home, Esumi ordered. A new summoner are you? Not much meat on you, but all, Blueby was saying before he was interrupted by Ramen. Not this one, she is capable, just do as she says. I see, but my name is Nandi, summoner, Blueby says. My name is Hero, Ramen says. Normally I would beat the mess out of you two for refusing my cute names for you, but I don't have time. Let's go, Esumi said as she hopped on Hero. Hero slithered away from the cave and started to snake across the ocean towards Anko. Nandi did as he was told and started to destroy the island after the clone successfully retreated with the experimented people. He crashed, whipped, and spat venom all over the island, tearing, uplifting, and melting most of the land. Esumi left Nandi to his devices while she rode Hero towards Anko. Eventually she saw Anko reach the lone boat, who somehow knocked out all the other people from the other ships. The person on the lone boat was Amachi, that scumbag scientist that works with Orochimaru. Esumi watched as Anko and Amachi fought against one another. One with 3 surgical knives versus 1 kunai. He welded the knives in his knuckle in some sort of claw style. Esumi was almost upon the two fighters until she saw Amachi throw a jar filled with some strange gray stuff at Anko. Anko sliced the jar apart before being surrounded by white smoke. The gray stuff inside the jar turned into smoke after Anko cut it apart. Anko tried to cover her nose, but wasn't quick enough and accidentally inhaled some of the smoke. She immediately fainted on top of the ship she was fighting on. Ha, when is she ever going to learn? Esumi thought to herself as she hopped off Hero and dove towards Amachi with her foot heading straight towards his head. Amachi must have sensed her coming, or saw her giant yellow unique snake that was always slithering towards the boat in this very blue ocean. He hopped away as Esumi crashed into the ship with a smashing impact. Many floorboards of the ship were destroyed as Esumi accidentally went to the bottom floor of the ship. Damn it, I put too much power in that kick, Esumi swore as she hopped back to the floorboard of the ship. She stood across from Amachi, who stared back at her. I guess I'll deal with you as well. It seems Dosu was unable to complete his task even with the upgrades and help I've given him. Yeah, the guy sucked. He was real dumb. And easy too. Real shame. Amachi said before his body started to convulse and shake. The clothing around his sleeves and legs ripped apart as they revealed green fish scales. He had fins on his arm that went up to his elbow. His shoes tore apart to reveal green feet that were eerily similar to human feet but with a lack of toenails and much more flexible than a human's feet. Amaki's face morphed into a fish-faced one. His eyes turned completely red. His eyebrows turned into a type of fish fin. Atop his head was a larger fin that stretched to the base of his skull. His chest hid 2 gills on each side of his torso. Directly under his chest. I will now show you the true power of science. Amachi said as he blasted a stream of water at Esumi. Although my friend hasn't created his own race of people, I'm sure it won't be long before he does. And he's a lot more impressive than some lackey of Orochimaru. Esumi spat before moving her head to the side and performing the transformation jutsu. As the smoke cleared from her figure, it revealed Esumi with 4 arms. And in each arm held a different weapon from her storage sheath. The extra arms were located on each side of her abs. The 4 weapons she took out were the metal pipe she called Basher, the iron hammer she nabbed from the genin in the Chunin exams, one of her older swords that was lengthy and thin she called Uchinin, and a long slender blade she called Nikki. What an ingenious use of the transformation jutsu, but nevertheless it won't be enough to defeat someone who has evolved from the evolutionary path of humanity. Amachi bragged before shooting sharp fish scales at Esumi. Esumi deflected the numerous tiny scales before rushing towards the transformed scientist. Amachi snorted before saying, "Water style, cannonball jutsu," and spitting out a large ball of water. Esumi ducked and dodged the water jutsu before kicking towards Amachi. Amachi slapped towards Esumi's foot with his weird fin human hand. Despite being transformed into the ultimate man hybrid, when Amachi clashed with the small genin he was immediately overpowered and was launched off the ship into the water. He yelled in anger and confusion as he soared over the ocean. He fell into the ocean and saw the unnaturally strong genin chase after him with her 4 arms that were wielding different weapons. Fool, the water is my forte, Amachi thought as he swam towards Esumi under the water. Esumi smirked after kicking away the scientist. Esumi laughed lovingly after looking at her gravity seal and chased after the scientist she just kicked into the ocean. Despite how clear the ocean's water was, she couldn't find the fish bastard. Esumi searched all over until she felt nasty slimy fish hands grab her ankles and drag her underwater. She held her breath as she was brought deeper and deeper into the ocean. Esumi thought she would be struggling to move due to the gravity seal and the numerous weapons she was carrying, but hardly felt any different in the ocean than when she did on land. Eventually the fish bastard let go of her ankles and swam away before abruptly turning around and swimming straight towards her. Esumi was thinking whether to play with him or not, but decided not to. This mission has been quite tiring so far, despite how much she likes to play with her opponents. Amachi balled his hand and punched at the genin who he imagined should be having a hard time breathing and moving properly. Amachi landed his punch on Esumi's face and expected her to be knocked away, but instead Esumi's face was sharply turned away from the force of the punch and had slight blood running down her nose. Esumi stabbed the fish scientist in the ribs with both of her blades in retaliation and kicked him in the chest, dislodging her 2 blades and blasting the fishman back to the surface. Esumi swam back towards the surface. Amachi stood on a floating rock holding his punctured chest looking at Esumi with fury in his eyes. He swiped some blood from his wounds on his finger and smacked his palm on the ground. "Aid me, sea monster," Amachi yelled painfully before coughing out blood. From his palm came a light blue sea slime creature that sat upon the surface of the water. Esumi stood atop the water's surface across from Amachi and his summoning creature. "Kill her. Do you really think this blob of water is capable of killing anything? Look at how slow it is," Esumi yelled as she hopped around the slow summoning creature. "Watch this." Esumi appeared above the water creature and surged lightning chakra through her entire body and weapons. She yelled before smashing through the water summon and tearing it into droplets of water. As she landed back on the ocean's surface, a large spurt of water blasted from the impact of Esumi's attack. Esumi laughed victoriously before hearing another laugh. "You fool, my sea monster is capable of reforming whenever there is a large water supply nearby. And on this ocean, I am a god," Amachi howled. And to prove his point the water creature started to come together once more, but it enlarged itself about 5 times as much as it was previously. Esumi teased. How annoying. But you know that lightning is really hot, right? I'm sure you know what heat does to water. So how would your little summoning creature do once it's entirely evaporated? Esumi said before aiming each of her lightning-charged weapons in the sky. Crackle fizzle shoom, the 4 weapons shot out a beam of yellow lightning that all headed towards one point in the sky. When the 4 beams met, a large explosion was about to form until Esumi crossed her 4 blades into the shape of X. The explosion stopped and started to compress and form into the shape of a sphere. Amachi was starting to get a bit frightened, so he quickly told his sea monster to attack Esumi now. The summoned creature grabbed towards Esumi, who was still forming her jutsu with its water hand. Bzzzzzt, the hand was shocked and the creature pulled back its hand. It was at this time the jutsu Esumi was forming was complete. The previous sharply colored yellow ball in the sky has now formed into a large lightning bolt. Amachi yelled at his summoning to attack before swiftly hopping into the ocean. Esumi motioned her blades downward and with a deafening sound of electricity screamed into the air surrounding the ocean. The bolt in the sky disappeared. Esumi sheathed her swords into her storage sheath as the ocean erupted into chaos. The bolt pierced through the water summoning creature and instantly evaporated it while continuing to strike down into the ocean, aiming for a certain fish. Amachi has successfully swam deep into the ocean ever since he noticed the powerful jutsu that no genin should ever be able to produce. Amachi would love to see how exactly she got so powerful without being modified in some way, but escaping with his life intact is much more important than finding out. He would have to restart his research elsewhere, preferably somewhere not near Konoha. As he was swimming deeper and farther away from the battlefield, he was gloating on the inside on a successful escape. Until he felt a sharp sting and suddenly everything went black as he was split in half from the large lightning bolt that continued to travel deeper into the ocean's depths. Esumi dispelled her transformation jutsu and returned back to having just 2 arms. She waved her arms around. Having 4 arms is so weird. It's kind of hard to get back to the mindset of having 2 arms when you just got done fighting with 4. Esumi thought as she returned back to the ship where Anko was still sleeping. As she saw the special Jonin napping peacefully amongst the destroyed ship, she smiled and shook her head. Esumi stood over Anko and kicked her into the ocean. "Wake up, you dumb idiot!" Esumi yelled as Anko woke up upon splashing into the water. Esumi watched as Anko freaked out and started to splash water everywhere. Eventually she caught on that this wasn't some weird dream or enemy attack and stared daggers at the young apprentice. She hopped out of the water after Esumi. Esumi made a fake girlish scream as she started to run away from the angry Anko. "Get back here, you rude little punk!" the drenched Anko shouted. "Maybe you shouldn't have decided to go to sleep on my first real mission. You know I didn't try to. And maybe you shouldn't have tried to interrogate a person not vital to the mission." He was vital to the mission. He could have known where Orochimaru was, you stinking brat. Orochimaru wasn't the mission. Anko stopped chasing after Esumi. She looked like she was having some sort of internal battle within herself before she just audibly sighed. "Fine, I may have lost control of myself and lost sight of the mission," Anko admits. "Do you wanna talk about what happened on these islands, sis?" Esumi asks. "I don't, but I'll tell you on the way back towards the village," Anko said as she summoned a snake for them to ride on. "Take this, Anko. I feel that it would be better if you have it than not." Esumi slapped the gravity seal on Anko's back and watched as it sunk into her skin, and slowly the words resistance appeared where it vanished. Anko tried to bonk Esumi for slapping her back before noticing her body feels off. "Hey, what did you do to me, brat? Why can't I move my body how I want to? This is for your own good. Frankly, your fight with the Amachi was sad. He wasn't even a good fighter and he brought you down with one trick. Imagine if I didn't come in time and he decided to kill you after he knocked you out." "I get what you mean. But explain what you just put on me," Anko said, slightly embarrassed at her failure against Amachi being brought up. "Nope, it's funnier if I don't." Esumi giggled as she easily dodged Anko's slow punches on the snake that was riding across the ocean. "Once I get my hands on you, you're gonna wish you never left the village." This continued on for a bit until Anko eventually tired herself out and couldn't try to grab or hit Esumi anymore. Esumi was laughing at each attempt to harm her. Hours later, that mission wasn't very long. "I still have so many days left until the Chunin exams," Esumi complained while dangling her legs over the purple snake that was slithering across the dirt road they were on. Why don't you practice your summoning jutsu, brat, and learn how to do this and meet most of the talking snakes? Anko said before having numerous snakes come from out her jacket sleeve. How the hell did you summon snakes without even using the summoning jutsu? Once you start to get a feel for the snakes from the summoning jutsu, you can summon them from different parts of your body without needing to use blood or the standard summoning jutsu hand sign. Can other people do that with their summons? Like if some ninja had a spider summon, would they be able to make spiders from their sleeves? Maybe. I don't know any ninjas that use spider summonings. But I do know that Yukon is a snake summoner. So you could practice how to do that till it's time for the final exam. I guess so. It sucks I have to wait till Suna and Jabi come back from their journeys. What do you mean? Anko asked. Esumi realized she might have let something slip that shouldn't have slipped. Our sensei took them on a mission after we left. He said it might take 2 to 3 weeks until they come back to Konoha. Esumi quickly lied. How do you know this if we left the village when they were still in it? HMPH. Don't underestimate our friendship. We have many ways of doing many things. A ninja never releases their secrets. I won't investigate this time, brat. But next time I hear anything about any of you three leaving the village without a Jonin in tow, expect hell from me and the Hokage. Anko warned. Soon after, Esumi and Anko reached the village hidden in the leaves after a couple of days on the road. They were greeted by Esumi's clone standing next to the fish girl from the island who looked differently. She had bandages covering her body and a slight smile on her face. So this is the sea monster that was attacking the ships? Anko asked in disbelief. Where is Amachi-san? Is he not with you? She asked. I beat him into a pulp. Now he's fish food, Esumi said while smiling. What? Then how will I turn myself back to normal? I'm gonna be a monster forever and it's all your fault. The girl shouted before bursting into tears and running away. Esumi had an annoyed expression of her face. While she did feel bad for the girl for having to be treated as nothing more than a test subject, it didn't mean she cared about her feelings. Esumi appeared in front of experimented girl and bonked her on the head, knocking her unconscious. She was about to put her over her shoulder, but she was too tall. So Esumi just grabbed her by the leg and dragged her towards the mission desk with Anko behind her. I guess this saves time. But you really are ruthless, aren't ya? Can't even spare a girl her feelings. Anko said. I don't want to deal with that. I have some things to do. I'm going to leave it to the Hokage. It will easier for me. So Esumi and Anko reported to the mission desk about what happened on their mission. They were paid a B rank mission reward for their previous C rank mission. After leaving the sleeping girl with surprised mission desk receivers, Esumi body flickered away back home before deciding on her next move. Upon reaching her apartment grounds, she was greeted with the sights of beautiful greenery. Flowers of a multitude of colors and sweet aromas poured out from the apartment grounds. Esumi guessed one of Jabi's clones must be working with this stuff. While it definitely looks good, it needs something else. I'll have to make something, but I'm too tired to do anything else right now. I'll save it for tomorrow, Esumi thought as she fell asleep right on top of her bed at 3 p.m. 2 hours later, a well-rested, messy-looking, yawning Esumi was currently in her kitchen looking for something to snack on. I can't even sleep for as long as I want now. Even though I feel fantastic, I wanted to sleep until tomorrow. Jabi's stupid enhancements are getting in the way of my beauty sleep, Esumi thought while snacking on some food. I guess I'll just gather information about the other ninjas until Jabi or Suna comes back. Maybe if I'm lucky I'll catch one of them using some super secret jutsu. Esumi thought to herself while putting on her shinobi outfit and glasses. Esumi hopped out her window before suddenly stopping herself. How the hell do I even find some of these bastards? Oh wait, I can just use clones to do the looking for me. And when they find all the other genin, then I can go. Esumi quickly hopped back inside her house and laid down before sending a mini clone army transformed into numerous animals and insects out to gather information for her. She smiled before immediately taking herself back to dreamland. A couple more hours later and suddenly Esumi's sleeping body twitched and convulsed before she fell off her bed. She screamed in annoyance and pain before slicing half of her wall in half with a blade. You stupid clone bastards. Don't freaking dispel at the same time. Esumi groaned in agony from all the memories her clones just sent her. Esumi heard a knock at her door which just pissed her off even more. She was about to slice her door and whoever behind it in half before she heard a voice say, "Are you in need of assistance, Esumi?" Get in here you fat bastard and make this headache go away. Esumi watched as the clone came in through the door and started to soothe her mental torment. She sighed in relief from the clone's mystical palm jutsu. Got any new goodies for me? Esumi asked. Well, we got a few things we are working on, but nothing really completed so far. Useless. We were planning to borrow a few test subjects from the graves here in Konoha, but we haven't figured out a way to escape the sight of the Hyuga clan to visit their graves. The previous Uchiha clan's graves are all missing for some reason. The other clans though have made great donations to my cause though. Very soon you, Jabi, and Aomatsuna will have a monumental increase in strength. Once we learn how to, the water clone was about to continue until Esumi pinched his lips closed. Okay fatty, I get it, you got some new project that will make us stronger. That's all you had to say. But remember never to kidnap innocent people or force anyone innocent into your experiments or I'll stop you myself. Esumi said as she let go of his lips and started to head out the door to practice until the Chunin exams. Pav change, hey pervy sage, is this how I do it? A spiky-haired blonde asked before suddenly having his chakra flare red. His pupils turned red, his fingernails grew sharper, and his whiskers grew more defined. How the heck did you manage to tap into your other chakra? A tall spiky-haired older man with white long hair shouted. Well, I just asked Foxy if I could use it from time to time. Although he was real stubborn at first, he eventually broke down thanks to my awesome ninja skills. Naruto explained while jumping around and punching and kicking. You can talk to the fox, pervy sage said in disbelief. Yep, whenever I go to sleep we chat in my dreamscape. That's what Foxy called it. Naruto confirmed. Dreamscape, is what you mean. Yeah that, so what technique are you gonna teach me? Are you gonna teach me a cool jutsu like this? Naruto exclaimed before going through some hand signs, puffing up his cheeks, and shouting, Ultimate Uzumaki Blast Jutsu. Naruto then exhaled a speeding mass of red wind that soon flew in the air. Saying the pervy sage was shocked, was an understatement if you saw his current jaw-dropping appearance. The information he got about the boy said he only knew the shadow clone jutsu and nothing about elemental ninjutsu. Putting away the fact that the boy has been talking to the Nine Tails for who knows how long and can willingly tap into its chakra without any side effects. The pervy sage grabbed his jaw and put it back in its original place before taking on a serious appearance. I'm going to teach you the summoning jutsu boy, the pervy sage said. Pav change, I made it to the finals guy sensei. I actually did it, me a shinobi who can't use ninjutsu or genjutsu. Lee cheered to his similar looking sensei. Right you did Lee, with your own strength and youthful display, you could become a chunin. Guy said while flashing his very bright teeth and giving Lee a thumbs up. Yes, I will train hard Guy sensei. This month I will be teaching you how to dispel genjutsu and how to withstand the effects of the 8 gates more effectively. Yes Guy sensei, Pav change, I would say I'm shocked at how quickly your attitude has changed, if I was an idiot. Jabi replied to his new prisoner. I don't know what you mean master. The female mercenary replied in a seductive tone while doing sexually suggestive poses. I think I'll make it a few days before the Chunin exams begin. Esumi has made it back from her mission safely. With all those bodies my clones collected from the numerous clans in Konoha and replaced in their graves with transformed water clones that look like the deceased, the power of all those clans will be easily collected for my own use. Jabi talked aloud to himself. The pet gray mouse, squeaked a response towards the monologuing boy, alerting him to the fact that his prisoner has equipped herself with a rather sharp stick and is leaping towards Jabi. Jabi sighed before swaying away from the attack and smacking her stomach with his palm. The mercenary's eyes were nearly lodged from her head as she was launched flying towards a large tree. The female mercenary was no more than a blur as she flew through the air. What was supposed to be a loud crack sound turned into a blorp as the flying mercenary crashed into a diamond-shaped mass of water. She held her throat and desperately tried to swim out of the water. The diamond shape soon shrunk until it formed into some sort of water fastening around her entire body until she was resembled a chained water cocoon. Jabi appeared over the drenched restrained over womanly figure with a dangerous grin. This should hold you till we get back to my village. Try not to use any chakra, or you might find out the surprise of hidden for ya. Jabi says mysteriously before walking away and dragging the woman while laughing with his pet mouse. It's the day of the final test of the Chunin exams. Many important figures were being brought into Konoha with much fanfare and impressive attires. Some were walking while others were being carried into Konoha. Numerous amounts of spectators came to watch these important figures as they came into Konoha. Cheers were being thrown around as more and more popular figures came to Konoha's Chunin exams. The trio of demons are currently walking towards the location of the final exam. Broly in his signature look, no shirt and red baggy pants. Gold-colored shoulder pads and sandals. Black semi-spiky long hair that reached his mid-back. A tattoo with the kanji of hyena placed on his left chest. The tattoo was split in between two shades, one light green, one dark green. Esumi wore her standard sharp-looking glasses that tended to make her look serious-like. She had on a fitted mesh shirt that cut off at her midriff and a dark blue skirt. On her back was an iron hammer that seemed to have changed from when it was previously seen before. Instead of just being a normal gray iron hammer, it is now made of a strange black material with a lightning bolt as painted or added all over the hammer. She also has a tattoo of two snakes on her right arm. Jabi hasn't changed much this month except with the addition of two orange bear cubs hanging off his back right now. The two orange bear cubs looked around in wonder and curiosity, as if they were children going to a festival for the first time. The two cubs had the word resistance on their foreheads. They were chortling, growling, and roaring to each other each time one of them pointed towards a new view or a new person. Due to their undeveloped bodies though they were only making high-pitched sounds. As Broly walked inside the huge arena for the main tournament with Esumi and Jabi by his side, he noticed the huge stand filled with civilians and ninjas alike. The monumental-sized stadium walls that circled around him. He noticed the other genin have arrived soon after his team did. A brown-haired ninja that wore a bandana and a senbon in his mouth like a toothpick appeared in front of Broly and the rest of the genin competing. "Focus up, look at the customers," he said. "In this main tournament, you guys are the stars." The Hokage soon cleared his throat before deciding to speak. "Thank you everyone for coming to the Hidden Leaf's Chunin selection exam. We will now start the main tournament matches between the 15 participants who made it through the preliminaries. So please stay and watch till the end." The Hokage finished before a roar of applause and cheers rang out. The bandana-wearing Jonin walked up to Broly and the rest of the genin. "Does anyone have any questions before we start?" Hey Sasuke isn't here yet. What is gonna happen?" Naruto asked. "If he doesn't appear by the time of his match, he will be disqualified." Sasuke would rather come here bandaged up like a mummy than miss this. "I wonder what's going on with him," Naruto thought to himself. "Alright guys, this is the final test. The arena may be different but the rules are the same as they were in the prelims. You fight until one of you dies or acknowledges defeat. But if I determine that the fight is over I'll step in and stop it. You got that? Now the first fight, Shikamaru Nara vs Ino Yamanaka. Those two stay here while the rest of you go to the waiting room." Broly left with the rest of the genin to the waiting place. They watched the match from above as it soon began. Broly thought this match was boring due to how friendly the two competitors were. Since they were on the same team, there was no way there would be any meaningful blood split or any dangerous attacks. And Broly was correct because by the end of the match the Nara boy won with only a few scratches and very dirty clothes. He captured the Yamanaka girl with his clan's jutsu and forced her to surrender. It would have been a cooler match if they didn't fight buddy-buddy. The blondie could have won if she went all out. "The shadow boy looks very tired compared to her," Esumi stated. "Yes, I agree his physical capabilities are quite underwhelming." Jabi agreed. Winner Shikamaru Nara. The referee who was introduced as Genma Shiranui shouted. The audience however didn't care in the slightest what the trio of demons thought and cheered as the Nara boy won through a brilliant and dangerous strategy that nearly involved him getting caught in the girl's dangerous family jutsu. After winning the battle, Shikamaru put his hands in his pockets and slowly and tiredly dragged himself to the waiting room while muttering something about troublesome exams, blondes, and women under his breath. "Welcome back youthful competitor," Lee greeted the shadow user. The Nara heir groaned in response while looking at the bench with a certain longing. He looked over the ledge as he forced his bruised body to continue watching his possible next opponent. And now the next match. Yada Esumi vs Rock Lee. "Come down," Genma shouted. "Yosh, it's time for my youth to burn brightly and to show it to all these people," Lee said as he hopped off the waiting area and flipped stylishly as he landed in a pose. From what my clone spied on him, he should be able to take quite a beating. Wish me luck guys, Esumi said as she body flickered into the arena. Don't forget to inject it. Jabi yelled with the accompaniment of two cubs roaring along with him. My fight had to be the last one. Broly said upset. It's not entirely bad Suna. We get to see any potentially abilities that I could find out for us and maybe use. Do you really think any of these bugs learned something worth having this past month Jabi? It's a possibility, and if there's a chance why not? Fine Jabi, begin, Genma said as the audience looked in curiosity at these two unknown genin. Rock Lee ran towards Esumi. Esumi grinned before deciding whether to take out her slammy, her hammer, or use taijutsu. But she realized that she has collected so many weapons, why not show them off here? The guy a month ago did tell them to show their best or to do chunin things to show off to the judges that they are chunin material. Jabi told her that it meant showing leadership skills or tactical prowess. So Esumi decided to try and play smart instead of just beating this poor idiot to near death. Lee did a jump kick towards Esumi's head. Esumi ducked as she took her hammer from her back and wielded it one-handedly. Lee followed up after his kick and threw a few more that Esumi also dodged. After missing quite a few times, he flipped while in midair and did a falling kick towards Esumi's small figure. Esumi blocked effortlessly with her hammer and pushed the taijutsu user away. Maybe I should act a little bit. If I treat this too easily, the judges might not advance me. Esumi thought before increasing her gravity seal to level 9, causing her to take a second to readjust herself. She slowly went through motions to check how much she has been restricted before smiling. Come on bowl cut, that isn't all you got is it? Esumi shouted, making the crowd look at this braggart of a shinobi. You've asked for it, Lee responded before dashing back at Esumi. Esumi watched as Lee threw two kunai at her. Esumi knocked the two kunai out of the air with her hammer and saw Lee perform a jump kick and yell. Dynamic entry. Esumi had to breathe out an air of disappointment as she could easily end the fight here and now, but that wouldn't promote her would it? And she had to put Jabi's mini clone inside Lee's body somehow before she could end it. Esumi was so lost in her thoughts she nearly was kicked by Lee's dynamic entry attack. She barely managed to block with her hammer and was forced to slide back from the impact of the attack. She just realized she didn't have to hold back at all. There were more matches to come surely. She could just act like a chunin then. Esumi's face turned into a terrifying grin as she leapt towards Lee without any reserves. Lee must have noticed the look on her face as his turned serious. Esumi smashed her hammer at Lee, who decided to dodge the hammer that was basically twice the size of his torso. Esumi saw Lee try and take advantage of her after her miss with a kick aimed at her side. Esumi moved with the momentum from her hammer and flipped away with it, but not before throwing a shuriken at Lee as she made distance from him. Lee ducked under the sharp item and ran towards Esumi again. Esumi dashed at Lee with a noticeably lower speed than him. As they neared each other, Esumi swung at Lee with a horizontal swing. Lee jumped over the attack and did a diving kick towards the Esumi he thought was now open to attack. Unfortunately for the green jumpsuit-wearing boy, Esumi blocked with her wrist and grabbed hold of Lee's leg. She was about to slam him into the ground until his second foot came towards her wrist. He landed his kick and forced Esumi to let go of his leg. Esumi smiled as he took the bait she set and activated her trap. As Lee was getting some distance from his opponent he noticed a strange spark of yellow electricity and his female opponent was suddenly in front of him. What the? Lee said before he was pierced through the shoulder with a blade. He shouted out a pained noise and kneed towards Esumi. Completed. You're welcome you fat bastard. Esumi yelled. Jabi smiled at this shout-out while the rest of the watchers were confused about what she was talking about. I can't underestimate you any longer. Lee said. You shouldn't have been in the first place ya retard. Don't you know who I am? I'm Yada Esumi, one of the best shinobi in the village. The best female shinobi in this village as well. Esumi shouted. This caused the audience to take on chatter. Is she really the best kunoichi in Konoha? I never heard of her before. Impossible. She's definitely the best female braggart in Konoha. It is true that most of the kunoichi that graduated this year aren't as impressive as her. Ko said to the other genin. Impressive how? Have you seen her mission record? It's basically empty except for that one B rank mission. Not just anyone genin would be able to surprise Lee like that and get a hit on him. I've been training him for a month and only a handful of these genin would be able to defeat him. Guy said. Please give me a moment. Lee shouted as he sat down and crossed his legs before grabbing his orange leg warmers. Esumi stared in disbelief at the idiot. Who asks their opponent who could be trying to kill them in the middle of a battle to wait? Esumi was slightly stumped on whether to take advantage or to let him do it. Before saying screw it and letting him finish, Lee took off his leg warmers and revealed to be wearing leg weights underneath them. He removed them and softly laid them on the ground. He put back on his leg warmers before standing back up and saying let's go. He appeared suddenly in front of Esumi and kicked Esumi in the stomach. Esumi was able to see his movements easily, but with the gravity seal increased she couldn't move exactly how she wanted. So either she dropped the seal back down a level or she needed to use her lightning burst technique. And since she needed to show off to the judges, she knew exactly what to do. As Esumi slid back from the impact of Lee's kick, she put away her sword and took back out her hammer. She held it in one hand before having her entire figure spark. Her body started to flare off yellow electricity at random intervals as her hair became as spiky as a hedgehog. Lee appeared in front of the transformed Esumi and punched at her face. Esumi, however, could now react due to the lightning chakra increasing her physical abilities. Although she could go much faster if she released her gravity seal. It is enough right now to deal with Lee. Esumi slammed her hammer against Lee's fist and watched as the idiot continued to go forward as if this hammer was nothing more than just a piece of paper and paid the price for it accordingly. Lee was smashed and sent flying away. Normally he should have impacted into the wall, but since the gravity seal was also restricting the amount of force Esumi could put into her attacks, he wasn't injured as much as he should have been. There was also the fact that lightning and blunt weapons don't mix as well as she thought they would, at least the way she just used it. Lee recovered and quickly went on the offense once again. Esumi decided to play with the boy who was about the same speed as her now. She swung her large hammer at Lee rapidly. Lee dodged each attack and expertly ducked under Esumi's hammer and attempted to trip Esumi with a spinning low kick from below. The audience was surprised at the high-level battle going on. They were wondering how that small feisty girl was about to swing and move that hammer about so easily. The strange green genin in the jumpsuit was also an impressive shinobi. He has shown nothing but taijutsu this entire time. Can you imagine when he finally decides to use ninjutsu or genjutsu? That pipsqueak is finished. The girl just started to use ninjutsu. Who knows how long it will take her to finish this if he keeps holding back like before. This will be over in 10 seconds. Esumi hopped over the low kick, only to find a blue sandal heading straight towards her chin. She was launched into the air slightly. Not good enough, Lee shouted before standing on his two hands and using both of his legs to kick Esumi further into the air. Esumi blocked each kick with her wrist but was still being uplifted by his attacks. She was wondering why her lightning chakra wasn't shocking him but put it in the back of her mind. She noticed Lee unwrapping his bandages that were wrapped around his arm and wrapping them around her. Good luck, pal. Like I'll let you pull off this technique of yours. Come here, Esumi shouted before dropping her hammer and grabbing Lee's bandages. She pulled Lee's bandages and stopped his technique while they were still in the air. Lee was brought towards Esumi, who kneed him in the gut with lightning chakra surrounding her knee. These two aren't showing much in terms of becoming chunin. A random chunin said. Yeah, I agree. These two might be stuck as genin unless one of them does something later on in the tournament. After Esumi kneed Lee with an electrifying force, he was sent plummeting back towards the ground. Boom! A small crater was formed when Lee landed. Dust was forced to rise in agitation of being impacted by such momentum. The arena was currently hidden in dust and smoke. The audience was blind to anything happening in the arena. They watched in anticipation and excitement. Could he have lost already? There's no way. He hasn't even shown off any cool jutsus. I'm surprised it took him this long to lose. Holding back against his opponent was setting himself up for failure since the start. Esumi landed in the midst of the dust cloud and cleared it away, revealing an injured Rock Lee holding his shoulder where he was stabbed earlier. He looked at Esumi's proud and victory-filled smile that reminded him of someone. Although they were different, their confidence in their strength and abilities seemed so similar. I can't give up. What did I spend training this last month for? To be shown up by a different genius? No way. I will prove that hard work and perseverance can defeat a genius. I will have to use the technique, Guy-sensei. Please forgive me, Rock Lee shouted before crossing his arms across his chest. Go on, use your little 8 gates. The best kunoichi of Konoha will shut it down as easily as I shut down your little primary lotus move from earlier. Esumi laughed harshly. Some of the Jonin and Chunin gasped as they realized that the green jumpsuit genin was trying to use one of the famous kinjutsu in Konoha. Can he even perform such a technique? Did Guy really teach his student that dangerous jutsu? What was he thinking? Will the boy really decide to use that move here? He still has other matches to complete. He let her get to his head. He should have just surrendered rather than potentially crippling his body just to prove himself. Esumi saw as Lee's face turned into one of shock before returning back to a determined look. She was slightly annoyed that he wasn't bothered enough to lose focus, but decided to go further. You don't really believe a person that could only use taijutsu could really become a ninja, do you? Even if your sensei is known for his taijutsu skills, he can still use ninjutsu. You on the other hand can't even perform the clone technique. In the preliminaries, you couldn't even dispel an academy-level genjutsu technique. Esumi harshly berated even more. What? He could only use taijutsu the entire time. That must be why he wasn't using any flashy ninja moves. It seems that this match was over before it even began. Poor kid, trying to live a false dream. Lee's face turned even more upset as he listened to his opponent's remarks. His determination was slightly faltering. I will show you that I can become a true shinobi. I will prove it to everyone here. Lee yelled before the area around him started to change. The ground under him started to rise up around him. His hair started to rise as the surrounding ground started to shake. His veins were beginning to pop out and become more visible. Lee's skin began to turn red. A blue chakra coating formed over his body before Lee put down his arms and stared at Esumi. What jutsu is that? Didn't the blue-haired girl just say he doesn't know any jutsus? Is he proving her wrong right in her face? Your teammate is going a bit far, don't you think? The lavender jacket-wearing Hyuga asked. Don't worry about us. Just focus on your upcoming match, princess. Jabi responded harshly, causing Hinata to fall back to where she was. The other genin watched as Jabi's smile slightly attached itself to his two bear cubs on his shoulder. The three had an evil smile plastered on their faces. Esumi has always been smart. Injuring your opponent's pride so that they come at you with the intent to kill is a great idea. They fight more desperately and pull out every inch of power they could muster before you inevitably crush them into the dirt. Broly said aloud. Hey Esumi-chan, shut up before I shut you up myself. Don't you dare look down on someone's dream. Naruto shouted loud enough to catch the attention of the demon in focus. To respond to this, Esumi just gave Naruto the middle finger and enraged the boy even more. While Esumi does think of Naruto as a friend, he isn't close enough to talk her out of what gives her kicks. Esumi smiled as she successfully manipulated the genin boy into performing his hidden technique. Jabi definitely owes her a big favor for this. Esumi replaced her hammer with Basher. Previously, Basher just looked like a metal pipe, but now it has turned into a green metal pipe with the words, "Die," etched into it. Its form turned into a sleeker and smooth appearance, until Esumi wrapped it in spikes. This should be very exciting. Esumi thought before Lee yelled, "Third gate. Gate of life open." The few pebble-sized rocks that were being levitated around Lee's form were now different. Instead of being small rocks, they turned into rocks twice the size of one's head. Lee then suddenly hunched over as if charging up even more power somehow. He can't be. Oh yes he can. Lee can open up to 5 of the 8 gates. He's only just getting started. Might Guy shouted. You're insane. How could you teach him something so dangerous? Might Guy looked at the person who questioned him with a rarely seen serious look on his face. I gave him the tool to realize his dreams. How he uses it to accomplish that is his choice. Even if he decides to regret it later, it doesn't matter as long as he keeps believing in his ninja way. Fourth gate. Gate of pain open. Lee shouted as even more veins appeared over his body. His nose slightly started to bleed, but he ignored it as he took a stance. Esumi lowered her gravity seal to level 4, so she could enjoy this fight. She knows exactly how dangerous the technique Rock Lee is using and could even lose if she wasn't careful enough. It's been a while since she's released her gravity seal so far down. She nearly moaned in excitement from the amount of control and power her body has right now. To the audience it just appears as if she was hugging and holding herself in a perverted manner. Broly continued to watch with no change in his expression, used to Esumi's strange mannerisms by now. Jabi slightly held his head down in embarrassment. With a loud asterisk whoosh, Rock Lee disappeared and in his wake the ground erupted upwards. Dust and large rocks filled the area where he was. The Chunin strained to try and find the boy. The Jonin watched with more focus. Some of the competitors at the waiting room tried to locate the green genin. 2 users of the Hyuga family activated their clan's special eyes. Shikamaru just dozed off as he realized by this point continuing further in this tournament would be a pointless action. Esumi saw the boy's speed perfectly. She watched as he appeared right under her, trying to launch her into the air with one of his kicks again. She decided to show him how to use his legs correctly, since he likes to kick so much. Esumi swayed her head back before kicking Lee's midsection. Lee quickly fixed himself as he dodged the kick that nearly landed on him even when he's activated the 4th gate. The audience only heard the swoosh and a loud boom before finally seeing the 2 fighters again. The 2 were constantly disappearing over and over again with loud shockwaves constantly being emitted out. Whether or not they were landing their hits or not, the audience could not find out, but they sure got excited over whatever the hell was happening right now. They cheered loudly and shouted the name of the competitor they wanted to win. Yada, 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 Lee, Lee, Lee. The watching Jonin and Chunin were shocked that this match was causing so much excitement. These 2 were very unknown shinobi before this match even began and somehow won the crowd to their side. Even if a large portion of the viewers were civilians, it wouldn't have caused this much commotion. This is turning out to be quite the exciting final exam and we only just got started. Esumi dodged another one of Lee's kick that was aiming for her neck and kicked the boy in his chest away. He shouted in pain while holding his chest, but the determination and fight in his eyes were still alive as they honed in on Esumi. I bet you're wondering how I can keep up with you without using some special technique as well, right? Well, too bad. It's just because you're so weak. If you were as strong as me and used that technique, then maybe you could give the Hokage a run for his money, who knows? Some people are just better than others. Learn to accept the reality of your situation and give up. These words struck deep within Lee's core. After Guy-sensei took him in, he wanted to believe that even if he wasn't a genius, even if he couldn't use ninjutsu or genjutsu, he could still become a splendid ninja in his own way. But, can I even pull this off? She's not even from a famed or prestigious clan, but she's still so strong. Is your strength really determined at birth, and no matter how much hard work and training you put into it? Is it all meaningless anyway? Lee's body started to shake before he heard a voice. Lee, do not ever question your ninja way from an opponent. If you don't even believe in your ninja way, then what is even the point of becoming a ninja? What were all those tears, blood, and sweat you trained with to prove your ninja way for? Guy shouted. Lee stuttered before looking at the smug Esumi with a dusty and dirty outfit staring his way with a cocky and teasing look in her eyes. You're right, Guy-sensei, I can't waste everything I put in so far just to quit now. I will definitely beat her. Rock Lee thought before shouting. The 5th gate, gate of closing open. Rock Lee's figure blasted off again in an explosive manner. He punched at Esumi's face. Esumi swayed her head before feeling a slight burning on her face. It turns out that he was able to graze her. But she wasn't worried, she still had a lot more tricks she could pull off and win. Lee threw more and more punches that were able to slightly touch Esumi, and she felt like she was getting swiped by an fiery cat every second. Eventually this pissed her off enough to make her to use her lightning burst technique. Esumi's figure sparked and flared into a frenzy with yellow electricity. She vanished and was about to knee Lee right in the stomach before watching him strain to form a punch. His muscles were tearing as he finally formed a fist and clashed with Esumi's knee. Boom! The arena exploded with large rocks, shockwaves, and dust. Wuxia figure was seen being blasted away from the initial clash site with a loud painful shout. A giggle was heard throughout the smoke-filled area. Ha 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 ha, it seems your little ninja way wasn't good enough to defeat my awesomeness. Yada, Esumi is the strongest kunoichi of Konoha. Don't you ever forget it, weakling. Esumi gloated before watching Genma go check on Lee. Winner Yada Esumi, he shouted before half of the arena erupted in cheers and the other half in boos. Esumi gave a middle finger and blew a kiss towards the audience before watching the medical nin come to take Lee away. Esumi saw how Lee raised his basically destroyed arm in her direction before trying to form a fist once more. He attempted to raise himself, but his body refused to listen to his determination, his will. Tears slowly fell from his face. Esumi wanted to make fun of the boy, but she did basically just destroy his entire meaning and goal in life just so her best friend could get information on his secret technique. She decided to let it go and return to the waiting area. But not before turning her gravity seal back to level 9. She grunted in discomfort from the amount of resistances she had to face but resumed her walk towards the waiting area. Strongest kunoichi of Konoha. Big talk from a small shrimp, don't cha think. Miyahara said, standing above Esumi. Get out of the way, ya freak of nature, or you will end up like the greenie down there. Esumi said, a bit tired. Why don't you make me shorty? Esumi vanished from Miyahara's sight before standing next to Broly and Jabi. You owe me 2 favors. Not just one. I think that kid might give up being a shinobi after what I did to him. Esumi said. That's fine, but after this exam one of those will be fulfilled very easily. My water clones are on a cusp of a breakthrough with all the bodies we got from the clans in Konoha except with the exception of the Hyuga and Uchiha. I should be able to borrow a body from the Hyuga clan after I integrate the specialties of the clans I managed to get now, and soon you too may also get your own Byakugan. Once I figure out how it works and how they're born with it, maybe I could possibly recreate it. Make my own special eyes. Jabi whispered to Broly and Esumi. Interesting thought. I'll aid you in taking the bodies from the Hyuga clan. Having their abilities would increase my power greatly. Broly said. Hey, get back here, Miyahara yelled. Wait till you meet me in the tournament, ya retard. You're not stupid enough to try and fight before we are even scheduled to fight, are you? Esumi asked with a lack of interest. Miyahara was pissed, but she knew Esumi was right. She would definitely get disqualified if she tried to fight Esumi here and now. You better watch yourself, Chibi, Miyahara said while punching her fist into her palm. And now the next match. Amai Jabi vs Neji Hyuga. Come down, Genma shouted. Hey, did you hear that the Yada girl from before whole team has made it to the finals? An audience member whispered. What? No way, how could they all make it together? Did they cheat? I have no idea, I just know that the fat boy and the shirtless kid are her teammates. They are really some monstrous genin, those 3. Asuma said to Kurenai. Well, I haven't seen the strength of the tubby boy, only the girl and the tailed boy, so maybe he is their weak link and he got lucky during his prelims. I mean, that girl he was fighting wasn't that great, Kurenai replied. His mission records only shown D-rank missions, so nothing there to tell how strong he is. Well, I guess we'll see if he's as monstrous as his teammates. No ordinary genin could defeat a member of the Hyuga family, especially a prodigy like Neji, Kurenai said. Jabi and Neji arrived in the arena after the judges had some Earth-style shinobi repair the field after Esumi's and Lee's battle. Normally they wouldn't fix the arena, but the 2 shinobi tore it up so badly it looked like a battlefield from a war. The 2 fighters stared at each other. Neji with a plain arrogant look on his face. Jabi with an excited crazed appearance, resembling a greedy pig in human form. The 2 cubs on his shoulders also looked at Neji with hunger in their eyes. A member of the branch family. Neji Hyuga, I will enjoy this little match of ours immensely. Get ready, lose. It's simply your destiny, Neji said. Destiny, you say? Huh, I wonder exactly what makes you the spokesperson for that. Well, in your destiny I see a prodigy, being shown exactly how foolish destiny and fate really is. Begin, Genma said. HMPH, you can't escape nor defeat fate, Neji said before getting into a fighting stance. Jabi put the 2 orange bear cubs down. Ah yes, the Hyuga famed gentle fist technique. I'm interested in facing the taijutsu style for myself. But for other reasons, of course, haha. Jabi said before walking towards Neji in a slow, calm manner. As Jabi approached Neji closer and closer, Neji suddenly smirked before thrusting his hand towards Jabi's face. Jabi leaned his head to the side and palmed Neji right in the stomach. From the impact a loud boom was heard as Neji was sent flying away. Neji was shocked at the speed the boy had just unleashed, as he previously dismissed him as unimportant and weak. He recovered and slid backwards as he landed. Whoa, did that fat kid just land a hit on the Hyuga prodigy? No way, it must have been a trick. Unbelievable, this year's rookies are definitely monsters. It seems all 3 of them are unbelievable, Kurenai said. Back in the arena, I hope you have much more things to show me in this battle besides that, or this will be very quick. Your arrogance is one weakness your clan holds. Although there are a rare few without this weakness, I could have easily ended the match with you looking down on me. Take this as a general lesson for a shinobi, Jabi said as he walked forward once again. You may not be as easy as I thought you were, but you won't escape your fate of losing to me, Neji said before readjusting himself and getting back into his clan's taijutsu stance. Jabi saw Neji dash at him as he continued walking forward. Your second weakness is the fact that your clan refuses to do anything besides taijutsu. For some idiotic reason, your clan is no better than Rock Lee. Well actually, it is worse in the fact that you have no issues whatsoever doing ninjutsu and genjutsu. Rock Lee is just physically incapable of doing nothing but taijutsu. I would point out more things you could do with your clan, but I'll just save those ideas for myself. Jabi says with a cryptic grin. Neji shouted before attacking Jabi rapidly. Jabi swayed and ducked and leaned away from each attack with his large robust body. How the heck is he able to move like that with a belly like that? Does common sense mean nothing to ninjas? Mommy look, I could eat all I want as a ninja and still be strong. Choji, I don't see you moving like that. Why can he do that and you can't? Sakura asked astonished. Who knows? Choji said while munching on chips. Jabi started to form hand signs and mouth the words, water style, crushing capture. Before catching Neji in a genjutsu. He was about to talk until he noticed a smirk on Neji's face. This genjutsu won't affect me. My Byakugan is able to see when a genjutsu is being used on us or our surroundings. Neji explained arrogantly. Thanks for the information, but once again your arrogance just gave your enemy information about your skills. A good shinobi knows information is power. And you just let the enemy gain some power over you. Jabi said before throwing a senbon at Neji. While you are aware of genjutsu being used on you, it doesn't mean you possess the ability to break out of it or dodge this. Neji yelled, Kai, before being struck with a senbon in his shoulder. He grunted in pain before quickly pulling it out and leaping back. Neji noticed a peculiar grin on his opponent's face when Jabi looked at the barely penetrating wound he suffered. Your traditions are a limiting factor of the Hyuga development. Your clan has been around since the time of the Uchiha and the Senju. Yet for some reason those two are much more famous and well-known in comparison. You even have a fantastic dojutsu just like the Uchiha clan, but you are letting it go to waste. The Uchiha knew how to use their power, even though they sadly suffered from clan annihilation by the missing nin traitor Itachi Uchiha. Neji decided instead of having this ridiculous-looking boy talk bad about the clan he resents, he will attack. Neji dashed towards the boy again to attack and quickly shut him up. You know he's kind of right. I read some history books in class and the Hyuga clan has been around for a long time. I didn't even know about them until the preliminaries to be honest, while all the villagers knew about Sasuke's clan. Sakura said to Choji and Kiba. Well, that's probably because they are so quiet and passive. I mean, have you even seen any Hyuga clan members around the village? They probably just sit in their little clan ground all day drinking tea and talking about how great they think they are. Kiba said. I'm getting a bit hungry. Choji says while pulling out a big bag of chips. Jabi sighed audibly as Neji rapidly attacked him once again. But instead of dodging all of his hits, Jabi wanted to push him to his absolute limits. He needed the Hyuga boy to show every technique he's capable of before he's able to finish this match. Research doesn't come easily. Jabi deflected Neji's piercing finger thrust and punched straight towards his gut. Neji easily saw the attack coming and in return dodged to the side before spinning towards Jabi with a double thrusting attack with his fingers. Jabi responded to this quick counterattack by stretching torso and large belly backwards, by using the soft physique modification technique that allowed him to stretch and elongate his limbs and body. The Kazekage's eyebrows slightly turned up at this sight, while the audience's eyes nearly popped out of their head. How the heck did he just stretch like a snake? Is he part of some snake clan? Do we even have a snake clan in Konoha? I wasn't aware he was able to do that. Shino said. Whoa, how freaky, Naruto shouted. After the Hyuga branch member missed his expertly timed counterattack, Jabi slammed him in the face with his belly. Neji was sent sliding back, slightly able to respond to the attack seconds before it hit. He stared at his unnaturally strong opponent in confusion. How are you so strong? My destiny, although it is inescapable, it is one of a genius. How could you possibly fare against me? Neji asked. Cuckoo. Are you really so dumb to think that everyone has a set path in life and that they can't escape from it? Despite your great eyes, it seems you're actually blind. Destiny is unscientific. Fate is a hoax. What you make of your life is up to you. Well, somewhat. Some situations are unavoidable, but I'm getting distracted. Do whatever it is you want to do, and if you can't, just get stronger until you can. It's not that simple, Neji yelled. You just don't want to accept that it is that simple. Jabi responded. Fine, I'll prove to you just how wrong you are. This match is over anyway. You are within my range and you can't escape my 8 trigrams. Neji said before slowing, positioning himself and taking a slightly different stance from earlier. Gentle fist art. 8 trigrams 64 palms. Neji stated before dashing and spinning towards Jabi. Jabi needed to let him finish this technique entirely before he could do anything to him, or he wouldn't get any information about this technique. Jabi decided to take a risk that could possibly end the match here and now for him. Just dodge. Neji's attacks came much faster than they were earlier. 2 palms. Jabi dodged and moved as agile as a monkey. Neji's attack hounded him though, as if he had his number and had to collect it no matter what. He couldn't escape no matter where how he moved. 32 palms. Jabi didn't know how much longer he could dodge with his gravity seal still on level 9 until he unfortunately found out. 64 palms. Neji shouted as he took a strong step forward and palmed Jabi in his stomach. Jabi smiled as he slid back. Finally, it's over. Thank you for that gracious donation of a secret technique, Neji. Jabi moved his hand in a strange way and his 2 bear cubs started to clumsily run on 2 feet to the side of Neji. Neji, with his Byakugan that could easily see nearly 360 degrees around him, and noticed the 2 bear cubs without difficulty. Jabi held his stomach from the numbing pain before quickly healing the area nearby the ones Neji's hit. It should soon recover, but it kind of aches, haha. Jabi thought as he started to inwardly drool at the amazing taijutsu style of the Hyuga clan. What are you planning? You don't think those animals will be enough to defend against me, do you? Just give me a second before I explain my next moves for you to know. Like any logical shinobi should do. Jabi said sarcastically before nodding his head. The 2 bear cubs flexed their paw fingers, and suddenly started to go through ninjutsu hand seals. The 2 orange cubs then roared out cutely as they surprisingly started to spew out a large amount of smoke from their tiny maws. How the hell can animals use jutsus? Maybe it's because they have fingers sorta. They're so cute. But now I can't see them cause all of the smoke. I wonder if those are summons, but summons can't last this long, so it can't be. But how? The Hokage pondered. Neji smirked. He could easily see through this smoke with his clan's special eyes. But suddenly he started to hear a slow beating noise. The noise sounded like a trash can's lid being smacked or hit in a slow musical beat. His eyes suddenly started to blur. Neji looked around quickly and saw Jabi on top of a tree smacking an instrument with a smile. He quickly threw a number of kunai and stopped Jabi from continuing his strange technique. Unfortunately for the Hyuga boy, during his blurring moment the 2 bear cubs appeared above him and were clawing down towards him with some very sharp claws that are definitely unnatural for animals their age or size. Neji panicked as he heard the smoke behind him being moved and suddenly started to spin. The 2 cubs cutely roared before realizing they were stopped a layer of chakra. 8 trigrams. Palm rotation. Neji said as he spun around and formed a blue dome of chakra that repelled the 2 bear cubs and blasted them away. The cubs shrieked as they flew away. How could he hurt those cute little animals? Prodigy my ass. More like animal torturer. Kick his ass, Tubby. Jabi stared at the Hyuga member wondering if he had any more techniques he hasn't decided to use yet. So many impressive techniques. I wonder if you have any more to show the audience. Jabi said calmly. HMPH. Come find out for yourself. Very well. But realize that if you don't, this is the end of the match for you. Jabi dashed towards Neji, who prepared himself for the incoming robust genin. Jabi dodged the attacks of Neji. Jabi smirked before abruptly ducking an incoming attack and forming a single hand seal and having his book bag on his back that was aimed directly at Neji blast a heavy beam of water out of it. Neji was blasted away and was knocked down soaked in water. The prodigy groaned as he held his stomach in pain and noticed that Jabi was making a strange movement with his fingers. Jabi smiled as thrusted his hand out. The water that was surrounding Neji and soaked in his clothes and skin started to move. It was quickly starting to come together and form on him. Don't even try it, Jabi said as the water that formed near Neji quickly captured him in a diamond-shaped water prison hovering slightly above the ground. This is water style. Diamond prison jutsu. Neji struggled and squirmed as he tried to break out of the ninjutsu. He realized this technique was stealing his chakra. He tried to gather as much as he could before it was sucked dry by the technique and managed to expel chakra from his tenketsu chakra points and burst the jutsu. He landed roughly on the ground while heaving and breathing heavily on his knees and hands. Escaping the technique took nearly all of his chakra. Suddenly he noticed a rather large shadow appear in front of him with a grin. Mr. Prodigy, would you like to give up now? It seems being weak and helpless is just your fate. It's okay to give up sometimes. Haha, maybe it's destiny for you to give up here. Neji looked at Jabi and suddenly heard something snap inside himself. He shouted in rage before throwing a punch lacking any strength behind it at Jabi's face. Jabi grabbed Neji's shoulder where he threw his Senbon earlier and threw Neji high in the air after his lackluster punch. Neji, helpless to do anything at this point and time, simply succumbed to gravity and started to fall down. He couldn't even move his head around. He noticed Jabi's smug smiling face right below him as he suddenly moved out of the way and let Neji fall. Boom! Neji crashed into the arena's ground. Jabi smiled as he looked at his mini clone that he inserted with that Senbon he threw earlier. His clone repeatedly used his diagnostic jutsu throughout the battle, allowing him to know exactly how Neji performed the Hyuga family's famed taijutsu techniques. Although it won't be as useful until he acquires his own Byakugan, it could maybe give him some other useful ideas. Genma looked over the severely injured Neji and called the match. Winner Amai Jabi. The crowd roared with applause and cheers over the great match. Jabi's bear cubs appeared on his shoulders once again and Jabi healed them of their injuries. They started to lick his face in thanks, causing some of the audience to start to AWWWH. Jabi walked back to the waiting area unharmed basically. Look at you, Mr. Thief. All happy about coming home with some new stolen merchandise. Esumi said. He doesn't need it that badly. I'm doing them a favor by borrowing it. Once I'm done looking over and possibly changing it, they'll be singing praises for me. Jabi responded guiltlessly. Singing praises of theft. Haha, you're just as bad as I am. Esumi said while slapping Jabi's back. I'm not bad, just scientifically curious. I want to fight already. This whole stupid exam should just be a giant battle between everyone. Broly said, slightly pissed. I'm sure you'll be fighting in no time soon. The next matches should be quick and simple. Esumi reassured him. The next match, Hinata Hyuga vs Homie Yamanaka. Come down, Genma shouted. Another Hyuga, are they siblings? They look similar. I hope she shows a match as interesting as that last one. It still won't have nothing on the first match. I'll be telling my grandkids about that one. You're 8. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. The next part will be out soon.